Wonder Woman 1984. Right off the bat, before we get into it, this is a complete spoiler-ridden review. If you haven't seen the movie, get out of here. Get your little booty patootie out of here. Watch the movie and come back so you can comment and tell me how wrong I am. I'm gonna try to go in order as much as I can, but it's pretty much just gonna be like a pros cons thing. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. This is my first movie review. The trend of big movie releases on Christmas Day continues. Yes, even now in the time of the pandemic, in which we shouldn't be going to movie theaters unless you're in New Zealand. Yeah, you're the lucky ones. But as for everyone else, unfortunately, not really an option right now. Luckily, I still found a way to get the same, experience thanks to technology. So they're taking out, they put out these new movies that were meant to have come out in the summer, and they put them out on Christmas Day on streaming platforms, namely Soul on Disney Plus and Wonder Woman coming out on HBO Max. Those being the two big ones. Of the two, I saw Soul first. It was lovely. Maybe I'll do a review on that later. But after I saw Soul, I hopped on Twitter and I started seeing comments regarding Wonder Woman. And it wasn't good. I wasn't expecting that. So I was intrigued, to say the least. And the next day, got my hands on Wonder Woman 1984. And man, those people had a point. Yeah, it's definitely it's something. It's definitely something. Now, right off the bat, I will address the elephant in the room, or should I say the plushies in the room. You can easily look around my surroundings and you might think, oh, he's just a Marvel fanboy. He's gonna shit on this because it's DC. No, it's not the fact at all. I love all these movies, superheroes. I don't care about the whole DC versus Marvel thing. It's silly, and all these movies have their own special charm to enjoy. I actually have a Batman plushie that I was looking to put back there on the windowsill. I guess back there, I should say, in the windowsill, right next to Iron Man and Saitama. But unfortunately, my sister gave him away. So we start off the movie in the mascara, right? We get a little Diana, a little flashback, sort of establishing the theme of the movie, right? Truth, right? Truth. Mentioned truth a lot. And right off the bat, one of the pros I would say about this movie, one of the cool thing that I enjoyed was a lot of the action set pieces. This whole opening scene, very cool, very well done, very awesome to see. Then we get the mall scene in present day, or I guess present day for her. In 1984, Wonder Woman. You see her sort of just saving people, or there was a woman jogging and she kicked a car out of the way. Yeah, she's just saving people without being seen, right? She's just kind of doing it, trying to be anonymous, and we get another cool action sequence in a mall where she's stopping a jewelry robbery. So that's really cool. Fast forwarding, there's another action set piece when they're in Egypt, which is probably their biggest set piece, I would say. Yeah, I think so. Considering that the final set piece is mostly CGI. So they're on the highway, and there's cars, and she's running, and there's guns and explosions, and it's cool. It's awesome. It's great. I love it. Very well done. Really cool. One thing I will say, man, I never thought I would say this, but as far as how they portray her speed, her super speed, right? Because it's not something she's known for, right? It's not her defining trait, I guess, per se. Flash, of course, and even Superman, right? But of course, she is, a super being. She is quicker than the average human, and man, it was just, it seemed so awkward, and I didn't like it. Yeah, there was just like, it seemed very clear that she was running on a treadmill, and then like the background was like blurred, not really blurred. It was like moving slow, and she was moving. Yeah, it was like everything else was like slowed. It was weird. I didn't like it. I don't know. I can't even explain it. All I know is I did not like it, and it's actually something that I prefer. How Snyder did it. It's something that Snyder did better. So portraying like that's her super speed, especially in like the first. The bank heist scene in Justice League where she's taking down these terrorists. Oh wait, it wasn't a bank. They were just like terrorists going to like a museum. I don't know. I forgot. But when she's there, like protecting the kids, and then like they open fire on them, and then she like swoosh swoosh, and she's like moving and like blocking all the bullets with her bracelets there, her gauntlets, I think they're called actually. That was cool. That was like a really like cool way that portrayed her speed, and it differed later on in the movie from Flash, who is, speed is his thing, right? So I'll say that I enjoyed the movie up until like the 2 hour mark. Consider that it's lengthy. It's like 2.5 hours. The 2 hour mark is pretty much where I needed to pause the film several times in order to fully grasp and understand what the actual fuck was happening. I'll say this. The idea of this magical stone being the impetus of everything, right? The reason that, Steve come back. The reason that Steve comes back. The reason Cheetah gets her powers. And for that matter, the reason Max Lord gets his powers. On paper, and even in the movie itself, when it was like first revealed, like they pulled out the stone and they started talking about it, and they say like, oh, supposedly it grants wishes. I think I even stopped the movie there, or maybe not. I didn't, not at that point, but I should have, because on paper that's so stupid. Like a magical stone that will grant your wishes, right? And that's pretty much the thing that's just getting this movie on a roll, right? And it's stupid. It seemed stupid. It shouldn't have worked. But man, oh man, it did. They got it to work. They did. I mean, like, that was, so the stone was like introduced like what, half an hour into the movie, and then like an hour into it, even up to the 2 hour mark, I'm like, all right, I'm feeling this. This is okay. Cool. Let's do this. It wasn't that bad. It really wasn't that bad. They pulled it off. Something that shouldn't have worked, and they pulled it off, which was me, while I was watching the movie, it worked in its favor. Because I didn't think they'd be able to do it. I was like, oh, this is dumb. This is like, what is this? Like, there's got to be something else to it. But no, that's it. It's just, yeah, it really is just a magical stone that's like causing all this the crazy stuff to happen. So the fact that it shouldn't have worked, but it worked, was great. And it's just a shame that they managed to pull that off, and they couldn't follow through, man. It was just, once you get to that 2 hour mark, they do a lot of like, what's the best way to put it? They do a lot of like, they ask of you as the viewer to take these very big leaps in like the thought process of like what's happening, right, in the movie, and how it happens and why it happens. Stuff happening out of nowhere, rules that are established and then like bent and broken on a whim, seemingly, right? They try to like do some explanation, but it doesn't really, yeah. And for me, it was just like these things that just like kept happening. And it was just like, that caused me to like pause the film and just be like, okay, but why? 3 moments in particular, and I'll go over each of those 3 moments. One, Max Lord, Pedro Pascal, amazing performance, one of the pros of this of the movie overall. He acquires his powers, becomes the stone, makes his wish for him to become the stone itself. The stone evaporates into dust, and he is thus granted the power to grant people's wishes as long as they're touching him, right? They put a very strong emphasis on that, throughout the movie. They constantly like focus on the fact that he's like either having to grab onto the people or like touch their shoulder, touch their hand, hold their hand, whatever the case may be, in order for him to get these wishes to work. And eventually, towards like the 2-hour mark, that just kind of like goes out the window, just because really there's this one scene. It's when Cheetah and him are on the plane and they're talking, and it's like he tries to justify it by saying like he says he's the one that makes the rules, and but it's strange to think or even believe that at this point he would be able to do that, because he's seemingly in a weakened state, right? You see that in his like complexion. He has like bloodshot eyes. He's like skin's like pale. He's really beaten down. So it's tough to believe that, once he's like in that powered down of a state, that his wishing powers actually get amplified. And not only can he start granting people's wishes without touching them, there's also the rule established that you can only grant 1 wish for a person, and even that's thrown out the window as well. It's just why? It's just like, I don't know. It's you set up these rules, you set up these boundaries, right? Or you set up these rules, you set up how things work, and for you to just like toss it to the side and say, well, we're not doing that anymore. I don't know, unless there's like, it's just tossed to the wind, and it's just, unless there's like actually something there to thoroughly like break down why. It just feels weird. My favorite part, and it's like the thing that made me like actually like pause the movie, was when he's in the president's office, right? And he finds out about the satellite system program thing, and the president explains it, right? And and he explains it sort of figuratively, right? He says, imagine you'll be able to touch everyone around the world. And he just goes, what? You mean I'll be able to touch everyone? And then it goes back to the president, and he himself says, oh, well, not literally, or it's a figure of speech, or something along those lines. Bottom line, saying that, no, you won't actually be able to touch everybody. It's just a transmission. It's just a screen. It's just what you're watching right now, video, right? I'm not actually physically interacting with you. They explicitly say it in the movie. No, it's just a figure of speech. It's not literal. And yet, they go on for him to be able to expand his wish-granting powers through use of this transmission and showing up on everybody's screens, which just boggled my mind. It's just really like, what? Why? You said no, but then you go and do it anyway, and it's like, oh man, what? So that was the first one. That was the first thing that made me pause the movie. Second thing was Wonder Woman's armor, man. What the heck? I didn't think, and I'm pretty sure, granted, all these things are like, you have to like, all these things having to do with gods and Amazon and everything. I guess there's like an ounce of like magic, right, incorporated into it that you have to take into account. But man, they really, like, there was nothing established or nothing mentioned to explain the fact that Wonder Woman was flying through the air, whipping on lightning, which, by the way, that scene was really cool. I'll come back to that later. Going towards the location of the final showdown, which was well away from where the armor was stored in her apartment back in DC. And yet somehow, when she descends onto that little island, the final area, she's in full clad in armor. And bro, I saw that, I was just like, what? How? When? Why? I don't know. Now thinking about it, I'm thinking maybe it like works like I guess it's like Iron Man's armor, and it just like flew to her and just like strapped on. I was like, okay. I mean, damn, not even Iron Man's armor could do that at start, right? Like the first movie, like he didn't get that stuff until later on. And like you saw as he like progressed through the movies, how he made those improvements to the armor for him to get to that point where it's just like he just takes off his watch. He takes off his glasses and like it starts materializing over his body by the use of nanobots. Wonder Woman, that was not earned, that was not explained, that just came out of nowhere. So that was the second thing that made me pause the movie. And the last thing was when Cheetah showed up. Man, so, and this is the thing that goes back to like the wish granting powers and how they just kind of like whoop, none of that applies anymore, because Barbara already had a wish granted, right? So she shouldn't have gotten another wish granted. And when they were discussing that, and when she made that wish, she wasn't even touching Max Lord. I don't even think she was looking at him. I think she was just, that's how like far of a disconnect there was from that moment. And then, which I'm pretty sure that's it, like those were her that was like the order of her appearances. Like she was on the plane with Max, right, after beating up Wonder Woman, and then the next time we see her, she pops out on the top of the facility as Cheetah, standing there, and you're just like, what? When did this happen? Why? What? So I don't know if I'm missing something exactly in regards to like the wish granting powers and how it all I guess you can make, but it just doesn't add up to me. I guess you can make the argument that maybe like, on the plane ride, they could have made that happen, right? But it's like I don't know. It's a big leap, man. It's something. It's the fact that they could have done it easily and they didn't, and then it's up to the viewer to kind of like fill in the gap, which is not a bad thing, right? But when it comes to something like that, so like minuscule, I guess, it's like, why not just like show us? I don't know, weird. Anyway, those were the three moments that made me pause the movie and be like, what the heck is happening? And it was all like around the 2-hour mark when that happened too. And from then it was tough to get on board. Like I paused the movie, and I just had to take a walk around. Like I just like I just got up, walked away for a minute, just, looked at my phone, got something to drink, took a good 5-10 minutes, and then came back to the movie. As far as people being allowed more than one wish, I really don't know, was that the case or was it not? I was really confused about that, because here Barbara was getting her second wish to become an apex predator and ultimately finalize the transformation to cheetah. And so why does she get her second wish granted even when she's not touching Max? And little Atreus, what's his name? I forgot. Max's son. He's he's scared for his life inside his father's office. People banging on the door like it's the freaking. Well, I guess in that case it is the apocalypse. Probably thinks he's gonna die, and he sees his dad on the TV screen, and he's wishing that he was there with him. How come his wish wasn't granted, even though arguably there was a stronger connection, even though, again, the TV touching thing, weird, but that was arguably more, for the sake of argument, that was more of a connection than Barbara. When she was on the plane, she was saying, and she said what she said about becoming an apex predator. Another thing was the lasso of truth, and it ties in with the whole transmission thing. So they got rid of the camera, which was the thing that was getting everyone to listen to him, right? I don't know, it's just so weird. So they got rid of the camera, right? Wonder Woman knocks down the camera, so presumably no one can see him anymore. Of course, he's become very powerful up to that point, and he walks over to the middle of this circle, and there's a blue beam, and what? What is this? Apparently we're led to believe this blue beam is somehow the thing transmissioning what he's saying all of a sudden. Okay, and then on top of that, okay, so we had to take that with a grain of salt, right? It no longer comes down to the camera. But then on top of that, we have to sort of take the fact that Wonder Woman, by lassoing on to somebody, is able to then transitively project her voice for everyone to hear. What? I don't know. I can't even get too much into it, man. I can't. I won't argue that the lasso of truth gave her the power to be able to make the connection, for her to make that connection with the people that he was making a connection with. But it just comes back to the point. It just comes back to the point that the transmission, the TV transmission thing was a tangible physical contact to begin with, because it was just I was not on board with that, man. And the movie pushed that hard, man, and I mean hard. They pushed it, and for it to be something that I just couldn't get on board, and then for the movie to push it so hard, it was just there was no way for me to come back from that. So yeah, just these little things. I mean, up until that 2-hour point, it was enjoyable, man. I was having fun with it. It was good fun. Granted, it wasn't perfect, but yeah, it was a fun superhero movie. Pedro Pascal is great. Wonder Woman's great. Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Steve Trevor, and it's kind of that the relationship, them being together, and they kind of flipping the tables from the first movie. How she's going around seeing everything, this is all new to me, and now they flip that around, and now it's him going and what the heck is this stuff, and his asphyxiation with the fanny pack had me dying, bro. That was hilarious. I love that. But that was great, man. It was really great. Like that whole like part of the movie. Like I said, the actions sequences were cool to look at, and it's a shame. It's a shame that like like right at the tail end, they couldn't stick the landing, and it was just like these little details. Like, and it's you know, some people can argue like, oh, they're just like minor details that like you know, just take it with a grain of salt, you know. I get that, and believe me, I'm very forgiving, right, when it comes to like movies or media or stuff, whatever, TV. Kind of just like asking the viewer like, hey, this may not make 100% sense, but I mean, just roll with it, right? I'm very forgiving, but there is like a certain point where it's just like, when it's too much, it's just like, all right, like, guys, come on, you just come on, you know. And yeah, unfortunately, Wonder Woman got to that point, man. The moment when she says goodbye to Steve, and she like goes off running, all upset, and like she's off in the air, and she like learns to fly. Man, that was really nice. Kind of just a very like good like message, like as far as like a 1-2 punch, as far as like, all right, you let him go, you had to do this, you had to make the sacrifice, but look what he taught you, like look what he left you with, you know, either way. So the gift of flight, that was really nice. I really enjoyed that. I will say, I felt like that scene where like she finally like, you know, makes the decision, okay, like I gotta let him go, it didn't, I feel like it kind of lacked some impact, or it lacked as much impact as it should have probably had. And I saw a couple reviews and saying that like maybe it was like too quick for that to happen. Granted, it was like the same, and hadn't even considered it until like I saw these other reviews saying that it was basically the same thing that happened in the first movie, right? Them having to separate and say goodbye to each other by the end of it. So I don't know if it was the fact that maybe like that it had already been done, it just that there wasn't enough of an impact. I don't know, I feel like there was something weird with like the camera shots as well towards like the final towards that the final like 40 minutes of the film, up from the point where like Cheetah and Wonder Woman are fighting in the White House. I don't know, there's like these weird camera shots in which like I feel like it should be like zoomed in more, but it's not, but then they zoom in afterwards. It's weird. I don't know, I couldn't explain it, but it just seemed weird. And yeah, it just felt like some of the way, because of the way it was like shot, sometimes it was like it couldn't make that kind of same emotional impact. It even seemed like at times that it was like kind of like soap opera-y, soap opera-ish, right? Yeah, soap opera-ish. There you go. Just like with the way like I really got that vibe like when they were in the apartment, Steve and Diana, and Steve was like, you know what you had to do, and she's like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't know, it was weird. So last thing I really want to rail on is Cheetah, man. Yeah, kind of feel like they dropped the ball on her. Kind of feel like it started off promising, but like, yeah, in the end they dropped the ball. So the main thing for me was the fact that they say like that she lost her warmth, her charm, her personality, right? I feel like we didn't get enough to like really be able to make that like establishment that she was this warm, funny, personable person, right? We got 2 scenes, and not even 2. I think you gotta say it's 1.5, because the first one is when they're when Barbara and Diana go out for dinner or just like to drink some wine. And the scene, when it cuts into the scene, they're already there. They're already having a good time. Diana's laughing. And the scene starts by saying, "Oh, you're so funny. Haven't laughed like this for a long time," right? Which is kind of meant to deliver the idea, okay, like this is a person, like this is a special person, right? Because if she's able to like make her happy, right? Her being someone who's kind of like kept to herself and kept secluded due to the events that she's experienced and hasn't really like reached out or tried to connect with anyone. If Barbara is able to do this and make her laugh and make her feel good, Barbara must be a pretty special person. Fine, I get it. Why not actually show the moment though? And this is like another thing where like the movie asks the viewer to like just like picture it. But it's like, why? It's not like something that's intangible. You can easily show her telling her a joke or whatever it was that led up to that moment in which Diana was laughing. Show that, like, and that helps to establish like that connection, and it helps make that so much more easier to believe, the fact that like she is this special person that like is able to, you know, that is warm and funny, and just show us her telling a joke or talking about something up until that. Because by not doing that, the thing is, they don't show her like telling a joke or like saying anything really personable. The only thing is like her acting like a klutz and kind of like a trying to see what's the right word here, because up until this point they show her like she's like not popular, obviously, right? And I guess like not desirable, right? Even socially, right? The fact that like the HR person who hired her or interviewed her the week before wasn't able to remember her. But I mean, like, just because she's quote unquote a loser, right, doesn't necessarily make her a good person. I don't know about you guys, but I have had my fair share of encounters with like people that are considered quote unquote outcasts, right? And they're like, you know, they nobody talks to them, nobody hangs out with them, whatever. And I've actually gone out of my way to like go and try to like interact with those people. And what happens, not always of course, but sometimes, they're assholes. They're jerks. They really are. I hate to say it, but like sometimes there's a reason, right? And I hate to rag on people. I really do. I'm not one to like talk trash on people. The one thing that I can't handle is when you like talk about other people. And so I go to these people and they start like just like, and they're just shit talkers, and they talk shit on everyone, and I'm just kind of there like, okay, right? And then on top of that, like they're kind of like bossy also. All of a sudden, like, because you came over to talk to them, they kind of feel like superior. Like you get that like just from like the conversation and what they're saying and like the vibes. And like, oh wow, like okay, okay, this all makes sense. It's not you, or it's not everyone else, it's you. So up to that point, the way they're portraying Barbara, by not showing her like actually like tell that joke to Diana or like say anything, I guess you can say relatable, right? There's nothing really like to say that she's like a warm, loving person. She says that she's been in love lots of times, like a lot of times, which just makes it's just which is creepy. Like what do you mean lots of times? Like what? I feel like they just did a really bad job of like establishing her as this like warm, caring, loving person that she was supposed to be, right? I mentioned there was 2 or 1.5 scenes because that dinner scene was I would consider half a scene, right? Because although we get like Diana saying like we only get half of like the interaction there. Like we only see like the reaction that whatever she said off camera, the effect that it has on Diana, but we never actually get to see what Barbara herself says, which I feel is a hindrance on the scene overall. The other scene is her when she's walking back home, and she drops off a plate of food takeout to a homeless person, and she just continues on her way. Fine, okay, that's good. It's not bad. But I mean, it can't be the only thing. It just can't be the only thing. It's like, oh, she gives food to homeless people. She's great. She's good. Just trust us. She's good. No, you gotta, come on. You gotta do a little bit more than that. So that was the main problem with me in regards to Barbara. The cheetah transformation at the end, I feel it was more than what was necessary. I don't know. So I'm gonna go off on a wild tangent here, and of course, some people are gonna tune out right away because I'm going to relate this over to a Marvel film. Most recently, I rewatched Iron Man 3. And I haven't seen Iron Man 3 since it came out. I saw it in theaters, and that was back in 2013 apparently. Imagine my surprise when I saw that on Disney Plus. I was like, whoa, this is going to be a weird like connected dots, man, because we got Wonder Woman, we got Iron Man 3, and it made me think of the Marvel's Avengers video game, right? I know I'm losing you guys, but stay with me here, okay? Check it out. So, in Iron Man 3, I actually had no idea whatsoever, but AIM is introduced in the MCU. At that time, I guess, I had no idea, like, sort of like the significance that AIM had in the comic book lore. So upon rewatching Iron Man 3 and seeing, I'm like, whoa! So it was pretty cool. And I kept thinking, like, as like the movie went on, I kept thinking like there are these things that kind of like hearken to I'm not sure if that's the right word, hearken, call, shout outs. Let's just stick with hearken. There are these things that I feel hearken to like AIM and the things that it does, right? AIM usually being run by Scientist Supreme, and this chick with the black hair, I forgot her name, Molly? No, that's definitely not it. But anyway, this chick, the botanist, the one that like kind of put together the whole like extremis, right? Whatchamacallit? The thing that Killian takes over afterwards. God, how do I remember these names? I don't remember her name though. Anyway, but the thing that she was working on, she with her like her dark hair, she kind of seemed like she reminded me of Monica from the video game Scientist Supreme, right? And granted, there have been, from what I've seen, there have been different Scientists Supremes throughout the comics book series. But anyway, she reminded me of her, right? But they never explicitly say that she is Scientist Supreme. Let's go to Killian. Killian has his power where he's like, or the extremis thing, where he's able to like heat things up and like explode them. And that reminded me of the Adaptoids in the video game, which is another thing taken from the comics. So we have these two things. We have Scientist Supreme and Adaptoids, and I feel like those characters, the way they did them in that movie, I feel like they had to be like influenced by them. I don't know. It might seem crazy watching the movie like 7 years later and just having more knowledge based on a video game that was released a couple months ago, but I just feel like it's gotta be it, man. That just had to be an influence, because that's the one thing great about the video game, even though everybody hates on it. But one of the great things about it is that everything that's in that game is coming from the comics. It's all based off of Marvel lore, right? And I love it because whenever they do like introduce or show something, they'll show you like the comic book issue and like flip through the pages and like just to show you like, hey, look, we're not pulling this out of thin air. Like, this is actual a thing from the comics. Like, oh, okay, look at that. That's neat. I love that they do that. We're just gonna say, just for the sake of argument, that Killian and Molly, whatever her name is, that they are like very like that they are inspired. Let's say inspired by these things from the comics, right? Scientist Supreme, Adaptoids, and whatnot. AIM, all being related to AIM. But they don't actually mention them. It's not actually mentioned by name, or it's not like an exact representation of what it is in the comics. And I feel like that's the way they needed to go with Cheetah. And I feel like they didn't have to be so literal with the Cheetah transformation. Like, up until the point where like she shows up in the White House with like decked out in like leopard print, and she's badass and she's like kicking Wonder Woman's ass. Up until there, that's perfect. That's like, she's Cheetah. She's like, that's very clear in our minds. We know she is Cheetah. There's absolutely no need whatsoever. I mean, no need at all for her to show up in fur, like actual like leopard print, like a weird like CGI cat monster thing. Man, I just feel like they jumped the shark, man. It wasn't necessary, man. I feel like it comes down to like less. Sometimes less is more, right? We had it. Like she was. We knew it. Like we got the idea. Like, she's Cheetah just based on like her actions and what she was doing, and you know, you didn't have to take it there. You didn't have to, and especially like for. I don't know, man. I don't think there's anyone that actually, like, you can say like they did it for the fans, right? But man, I don't think there's anyone that enjoyed that. Is there? I don't know. If you enjoyed the like Cheetah, her final appearance in the film, please leave a comment. Let me know, because I need to know if there's people out there that. But for the most part, I think people will say that like the CGI is weird and like. It's just, we didn't need it, no. When she makes her wish, all right, and she starts getting Wonder Woman's powers, and she becomes strong and confident and seductive and all that good stuff. And we start to, we come to understand that by wishing for something, you lose something, right? And no lie, once that is like made apparent that that's something that happens, right? That whoever gains the wish also loses something. From that moment on, oh damn, that timer just dropped. From that moment on, I'm looking at Cheetah and I'm trying with all of like my I'm just trying my hardest to figure out, what did they take away from her? What is it? And it's not until Wonder Woman actually has to spell it out and actually say, look what you've become. You used to be so kind. You used to be so warm. You've lost all that. And she says that, and I'm just like, oh, so that's what she lost. That shouldn't have been the case at all, man. That should have been something that should have been very, like, you should have been able to pick up on. It should have been apparent had they actually done a good job of establishing her character as Barbara before the transformation to Cheetah. So yeah, that's that, man. Overall, shame. It's a longer list of cons and pros, and it was thoroughly an enjoyable film up until we get to like the very like final stretch of the film. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Is it worth a watch still? Well, I mean, if you're watching this, you already saw it, so. But if you haven't watched it and you watched this, yeah, sure, why not, man? I mean, what? I mean, geez, it's not like it's a pandemic. We're not getting as much like TVs and movies and games and stuff as we normally would otherwise. So might as well soak up any little bit that we can, right? Anyway, so that's that for my Wonder Woman 1984 movie review. Yeah, let me give me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the film, if you agree with any of my points, if you disagree, if you think I'm a big dum-dum, yeah, just let me know there. Follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. So my YouTube is pretty bare. I'm looking to make more content for it, though. Anything really. Reviews, gaming videos. I'm mainly on my Twitch though, so if anything, you can hop on there and give me a follow there. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. Peace.